I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Curtis Cook. Curtis was the dean of the School of Business for many years at University of San Diego. Made this a highly successful program, but one of the most brilliant and visionary initiatives that he undertook was the creation of the Master of Science in Executive Leadership program with Ken and Margie Blanchard. And I'd like to ask Curtis if he would join me, please, and actually do the introduction of Ken.
Thank you very much, Kurt, and my welcome to all of you to our beautiful campus. Let me give you just a hint of an idea about how this program got started. One of the things I always tell any of my students, undergraduates, graduates, doesn't mind, is the power of serendipitous conversation. Serendipitous conversation. That which is unexpected, but presents itself as an opportunity if you have the vision and the wherewithal to grab it and run with the ball. That is how this program began. I'm talking about the Master of Science in Executive Leadership. I had the privilege of meeting Ken and Margie Blanchard at their office in Escondido during my second semester as dean here at the University of San Diego. It was simply a get acquainted session. I had previously incorporated Ken's situational leadership model into some of the writings that I was doing and so forth, so I was familiar with him. But wow, in a 2-hour get acquainted conversation, we ended by shaking hands saying, we're going to change the world in our own way. We are going to join forces, your for-profit organization, our not-for-profit. We are going to create a totally different kind of a master's degree experience. We soon in the conversation found out that all three of us really pointed to the shortcomings of the traditional MBA program. MBA programs are a dime a dozen. Anybody that can put up a sign can offer an MBA program. But we felt that the MBAs in particular, and I am a product of that particular experience, but we realized they're all leadership light. Great on the analytics, but wow, when it comes to doing the stuff that is really meaningful, that changes organizations, that transforms organizations, you got to focus on the leadership capabilities of people. Not only to present a vision, but to rally the troops around the flag and follow it over the hill, whatever it might be. So we literally left that meeting agreeing we were going to create a brand new, different type of leadership experience at the graduate level. That was in March of 1998. We're now into our 13th year. From my point of view, as a once-upon-a-time dean, still a professor, but that was sort of the hallmark of what I consider to be the best program to be created during my fortunate tenure serving the School of Business. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Ken. Not only do I consider him a friend and colleague, along with his wife Margie, back there in the yellow outfit, but terrific visionary, fantastic academic in his own right, writes 1 to 2 books a year, usually co-authored with a colleague, but very well-known books. Yesterday, I was finishing the end of a chapter that I was writing, and I was just scrolling through Amazon.com. I don't know how many dozens of Ken Blanchard books they had listed on their portfolio. But Ken has been not only one of the co-visionaries of the program, he's been instrumental in its support throughout. He and his wife Margie teaching the program. So without further ado, Ken, would you come up and address the group, please?
On your left shoulder, and your left hand on your right shoulder, and give yourself a hug because you're here. A lot of other places you could be, and so we're going to tell you a little bit about this program, but hopefully give you a few things to take home with you. Our meeting actually with Curtis had a pre-conversation. We always play in the Pro-Am here in San Diego for the tournament. It used to be the Andy Williams one. And I was on the first tee, and the director of development was there. And I just, had this idea about, we ought to create a program. And I said, what do you think of this idea? And he said, wow. And he went to Curtis, and then we ended up meeting. So I get a lot of my best ideas on the golf course because, my score isn't necessarily the most important thing. But what we really have tried to do, and we now have about 250 graduates, and we look at them as disciples, people who go out to where they're planted and try to make a difference. How many of you know that leadership does make a difference? I mean, have you seen people come in and take an organization and just rise it up of where you never thought it might be? And have you seen people come in and an organization doing fine and they take it into the toilet? It's really, leadership really does make a difference in so many cases. And what I felt back in the 1990s, and I feel it more today than ever before, is the world is in desperate need of a different leadership role model. We have seen what self-serving leaders have done in every sector of society, and we just don't need any more of that. And so if we could create disciples that went out and led in a different way, we really could make a difference. And when I say lead in a different way, we pulled a book together a few years ago with a bunch of my colleagues, and two of them are here. Where's Dre and Susan? Are they here? We wanted to try to pull what we have been doing for 30 years. Dre and I were just figuring out how long we've worked together. We were thinking it was 30. No, God, it's really 41 years. And but we wrote a book called Leading at a Higher Level. And what we defined that as people who lead at a higher level are helping people achieve worthwhile goals while taking into consideration the needs and concerns of all involved. And it's very consistent with what you probably have heard if you read Jim Collins' book, that great leaders have a both-and attitude towards people and results. But we want to make people understand clearly we're talking about worthwhile goals. Making profit is not a worthwhile goal. It is a byproduct of creating a motivating environment for your people and taking care of your customers and being a good citizen in your community. And one of the main problems, I just finished a book with Colleen Barrett, who was stepped down as president of Southwest Airlines, and it's called Lead with Love. And love is spelled L-U-V, which is their stock symbol. And they initially flew out of Love Field, and they were on Love Boulevard. And Herb Keller, who was one of the co-founders of Southwest, in the foreword says, you might think this concept of leading with love is soft management. Let's just look at the facts. The airline industry, as an industry, has lost money in its history. Southwest, for 40 straight years, has made money. Duh. The reason they have is, who do you think is their number one customer? Their people. And they say if we treat our people with golden rule behavior and train and empower them and treat them as if they're important, then they are going to be, what? Passionate and engaged in what they do and be excited about taking care of the number two customers, which is what? The people who fly their airlines. And if they take care of them, they're going to want to come back, and that'll take care of the people who own the place, the stockholders. And that's the order of what we push in this program. It's people first, customers second, and then your results or your profit and all third. And one of the things that's so different about what we do, besides typical MBA program, besides emphasizing leadership, is that we really go after your heart. So many programs go after your head. And one of the fun things is we have a graduation coming in a few weeks. We have a dinner the night before graduation, and people bring their parents and all. We're joyful this year. Our daughter Debbie is going through the program, and she already has a Master of Science in Organizational Development and Change from American University, but she wanted to get into this because she's starting to take, even more significant leadership in our company, and her best friend, who she met at University of Colorado, has just been named the head of all of our consulting partners, and she's in the program. And you're going to hear from our colleague from WD-40. We all look at this as our executive development program. Because if we can get a core of people that understand what we're talking about and be in this kind of a cohort experience, then we have a chance of really making a difference, both in our organization and your organization and all. And what's the fun about the graduation? I go around with a microphone and ask people, what the program's meant to them, and a good share of them end up crying. And I remember when Alice, who was the president of the university, came to our first graduation, and people were crying. She said, I mean, what kind of program are you and Cook putting on here, And I think that's because of getting at people's hearts. And at that dinner, you have spouses and families that say, I want to tell you what a difference this program has meant at home and all that. Because, life is about how do you go about influencing other people? How do you make a difference in their lives? And learning all the rest of the things which we have in the program too, about finances and accounting and marketing and all those kind of things are all really great. But the first issue is a heart issue. And Robert Greenleaf, I think, had it right years ago when he said, the greatest leaders are a servant first and a leader second. And what he really said is that the first issue around leadership is who are you and why are you doing this? And if you get in your heart that you're there to serve, then you can look for a leadership position where you have an opportunity to serve. But if you're a leader first and you're looking for status and power and all that thing, and you look for a position, and then you try to figure out how to do it, you got the wrong end of the whole deal. And so what we really say is, why are you here? What are you doing? What are you here? And the greatest leaders are here to serve, not to be served. Now, some people say, come on, Blanchard, you're talking about soft management. I'm not talking about soft management. Let me just tell you who we have worked with and absolutely believe in what I'm saying besides Southwest. Nordstrom's. What is Nordstrom's known for? They take care of their customers. Why do they take care of their customers so well? They take care of their people. Our daughter Debbie worked there in the summer in school. And she was there a week or so, and we had lunch, and she said, I got the strangest manager here at Nordstrom's. I said, what's that? He said, at least 2 or 3 times a day he comes to me and says, Debbie, is there anything I can do to help? She said, he acts like he works for me. I said, he does. And in the orientation program that she went through, the first morning, they spent the whole morning teaching them how to say no problem. And a friend of ours went up to get perfume for his wife a while back, and the gal behind the counter at Nordstrom said, we don't sell that perfume here, but I know where I can get it in the mall. How long are you going to be here? She said, another half an hour. She said, fine, I'll go get it, and I'll come back and gift wrapped it. This woman left Nordstrom, went to another store, bought the first perfume, came back, gift wrapped it, charged him the same price that she had paid in the other store. In other words, they didn't make any money. What did they make? Customer, because he told everybody, told me, and I tell thousands, and all that kind of thing. So, you look at that. Wegmans won the #1 company to work for in the United States, grocery business in Rochester. And I've worked for them. I went up at the anniversary or the passing of the baton to the 3rd generation. And old man Wegman, who started the thing, his son was running it, and he was turning it over to his daughter. And the old man was still alive, and he says, I'm not going to come to that meeting because it's really about her. I don't want people Google-eyeing over me. How many times do you get that kind of deal? Ritz-Carlton. Work closely with Horst Schulze. What's the mission of Ritz-Carlton? We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. Their whole training program is set up to set up their people to serve their customers. They have a 6-week training program that they put people through, and after they go through that, every frontline employee is given a $2,000 discretionary fund to use to solve a customer's problem, and they don't have to talk to anybody. One of Horst's favorite stories is that this one guy was staying at one of their Atlantic properties, and he had to leave this day and catch a plane from Atlanta to LA and go to Hawaii because he was giving a big speech the next day to his international company. And he forgot his computer. And all of his PowerPoints were on there and all. And he realizes he's heading to the airport. So he calls the hotel and says, here's my room. Here's where I left it. Can you, give it to FedEx and overnight it, for guaranteed 10 o'clock in the morning delivery. And that's what his call. The next day, Horst is making his rounds. And he gets to housekeeping. He says, "Where's Mary today?" They said, "Oh, she's in Hawaii." "Hawaii? What's Mary doing in Hawaii?" She said, "Well, this guy left his computer and he needs it for a speech today at 1 o'clock, and Mary doesn't trust Federal Express anymore." Now, you think she might have went for a vacation, but what did she do? She came back on the next flight. And what do you think was waiting for her? A letter from Horst, an article in the paper, accommodation, and all that kind of thing. Duh. So Novus, they're going through some tough times now because of the financial market, chosen the #1 company to work for in the United States so often that they asked them to stop applying. And they started a new list, the All-Star team. And Jimmy Blanchard, who's on our Lead Like Jesus board and all, and his partner, they have started chairs, and I don't think about 10 universities in the South on servant leadership. And so what I want you to understand is that we're not teaching here soft management just because we want to go after people's hearts. We're teaching management, which is the only way you can get great results and great human satisfaction at the same time. And that's really true. Now, some people say, "Oh, servant leadership, you're talking about the inmates running the school or trying to please." No. See, there's two parts of leadership that we teach. One is the visionary direction part of leadership, which includes what? What are you focusing on? We already talked about it. It should be your people, then your customers, and then your financial bottom line. But you need a compelling vision. I have a book I wrote called Full Steam Ahead, The Power of Vision in Your Organization, in your life, with a woman by the name of Jessie Stoner, who is a student of Drea's and has been studying vision for 30 years. And a compelling vision tells you who you are, what business you're in, what your picture of the future is, which if you do a good job, what will happen, and then what are your values that are going to drive your behavior. And I want to tell you, so many organizations don't have that. You ask anybody what business you're in, and you get 1,000 answers if you got 1,000 people. Because they're not clear. At Southwest Airlines, you ask anybody, "What business are you in?" "We're in the customer service business. We happen to fly airplanes." "Well, what's your picture of the future? If you do a great job, what will happen?" They said, "We want to democratize the airways. We want every American to have an opportunity to be with a friend or a loved one in a happy time and a sad time." That's why they're a low-cost airline. Then you say, "Well, what guides your behavior? What are your values?" And most organizations don't have any values. And if they do, they have 8, 10, 12. They've got God, Mother, and Country, and they put them up on the wall. But nobody does anything with them. At Southwest, they got 4 values, and you can't handle more than 3 or 4. I mean, even the Pharisees said to Jesus, 10 commandments. There are too many. What are the biggies? And what do you say? Love God with all your heart and all your mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself. There's 3. And it's all about love. Duh. See, why do you think you ought to lead with love? Because it's the mandate. God is love. If you know God, you know love. If you don't know God, you don't know love. And so at Southwest, they have 4 compelling values. Number 1 is safety because of the business they're in. And then they have 3 attributes that they want people to engage in every day. One is a warrior spirit. And that does not mean combative. It just means if you're going to do a job, do it. Be your best. Go into it. That's why they can turn a plane in 10 or 12 minutes faster than anybody in the business. Why? Because the pilots are in there cleaning the garbage with everybody. They don't say it's not my job and all that kind of stuff. The second one is a servant's heart. How many organizations have you heard that have a value of a servant's heart? And they interview people to find out Tell me, give me some examples of when you've really asked to serve and help other people. Give me times when maybe you have been a little too self-serving and you realized what happened. What were the ramifications of that? I mean, they really push these people because they want people that are there to serve, not to be served. You probably heard the story a month or two ago about the pilot that held the plane for 12, 15 minutes because he heard that there was a father racing to get to the plane because his grandson was dying and he wanted to be with him. And for that to happen, what had to happen? There was 5 different departments that had to pass that information up. How would the pilot know? But somebody had to, on the phone, heard about it and turn to this person, turn to that and all that, and eventually getting to the pilot. Did the pilot have to call Dallas and say, do you mind if I hold the plane up? He told everybody in the plane what happened, and when the father came in, got a standing ovation, and everybody's hugging him and all that. Duh. And then finally, their third value is a fun-loving attitude. And loving is spelled L-U-V-I-N-G. And they want people to take what they do seriously, but themselves lightly. And that's why it's so much fun. One of my colleagues was flying Southwest recently, and the steward got on the phone and says the last flight of the day, and we're really tired. And we don't have the energy to pass the peanuts and the potato chips out. So we're going to put them on the floor in the front of the plane, and when we take off and we gain height, they'll come down, and if you need any, you can get them and pass them to your neighbors. And she said the whole place was a hoot, And my friend Patrick Lencioni loves to tell a story about one Southwest airline passenger who was an old complainer and all, wrote to Herb and Colleen and said, I really resent your people fooling around during safety announcements, although the research shows if you're fooling around, you'll listen. And I think that's inappropriate and you should stop that behavior. And most presidents would write back and say, I appreciate your note and here's a couple of coupons. I hope you continue to fly. And I'll talk to the people. And Colleen and Herb wrote back and said, we'll miss you. If you don't want to fly with an airline that's having fun, go somewhere else. So, see, the important thing to remember is that you need a compelling vision that tells what business you're in, where you're going, what are your values that are going to guide your journey. Then you can put goals under that, but now they have meaning. The responsibility for this comes from the hierarchy. It doesn't mean you don't involve people, but this is the, visionary direction, strategic part of leadership. And then what happens? What's the second part of servant leadership? Because that's the leadership part of servant leadership. Now you get to implementation or operational leadership. Now you got to turn the pyramid upside down. And who works for everybody? Everybody works for everybody, who eventually works for the people who are closest to the customers. And now what you're doing is empowering your people and really giving them the ability to make decisions, like I'm going to hold the plane or I'm going to do this, because they're in charge and everybody is doing that. So interesting. Colleen stepped down 2 years ago as president. But you know what her main background was to become president of Southwest Airlines? She was Herb Kelleher's executive secretary for over 20 years. And when he decided to step down, he didn't want some egomaniac, kind of a Jack Welch lookalike, to come in with a big ego and want to change the vision and values and direction. That was fine. What he wanted is somebody who naturally could play the servant part of servant leadership, and there was nobody better than Colleen. He says, you know everybody better than everybody else. You be president. She's won every major leadership award in the airline industry. First woman ever to get it. Why? Because they understand the two parts of servant leadership, which is the vision and direction and values and goals and all, and how you implement the thing. And Drea and our son and some others have done some really powerful research looking at strategic leadership, which is vision and values and building a culture and strategic initiatives and things like that to give organizations direction, and looked at operational leadership, which is leader behavior and systems and all the kinds of things that you need to make things happen. And they wanted to look at what's the relationship between that and employee work passion, customer devotion, and organizational vitality. And vitality has both hard and soft measures. hard, of course, is your profit and all. Soft would be what's your reputation in the community and all that kind of thing. And what they proved, number one, is leadership does make a difference, but you know where the biggest impact on employee work passion and customer devotion came? It wasn't from strategic leadership, it was from operational leadership, about 80 to 85% of the impact. It doesn't mean that strategic isn't important, because without it, there's nothing. What is the main problem in Washington? We have no vision. We have no values. And so when there is nothing to serve, what is the only thing that you can serve? Yourself. And so you got two warring parties that are all arguing about how they can serve themselves better. Not necessarily solving problems. So without a vision, what does it say in the Bible? People without vision are unrestrained. And that's what happens in so many organizations and all. And so the real power is that if you turn that pyramid upside down and you empower and make your middle and lower and supervisory managers important, they take care of your people, and your people then get excited, take care of your customers, and then your customers take care of the thing, and boom, it works. And so I just wanted to give you a flavor of some of the things that we do. We also believe that being an effective leadership is a journey, beginning with self-leadership. And Dre and Susan are the first course, a whole week, where you really get a chance to look at who you are, what's your dispositions, what's your leadership points of view, the beginning of, and your vision, and your own personal mission statement, all kinds of things about yourself. Because if you don't know who you are, how are you going to take care of anybody else? The people who can't wander around and catch people doing things right because it's not in them is why they're people who have never gotten caught doing anything right themselves. So if you don't have a full deck and a full sense and a feeling that you're okay, how can you help other people okay? And so we start with self-leadership, where you really get perspective, and then we move into one-on-one leadership. That's where we introduce situational leadership, although we also do that in the self-leadership program. And then the journey continues with team leadership. How do you build a community? One-on-one, you're trying to see how do you build trust. And then the whole journey ends with taking a look at organizational leadership, which is very different than team, because now you're, managing, directing a group of teams. And how do you do that in a way that really sense, which is one of the main roles, is managing change and all that kind of thing. And so it's an exciting program. It's a cohort program. The people you come in with are the people that stay there all the time. People can't come in from the outside and elect to take a course. So you got the same group for 2 years, 1 3-day weekend a month for 2 years and 1 week each summer. So I tell you, you got your own board of directors. And I think one of the big reasons why there's a lot of tears at the end is not just because of the great content, it's because of the relationships that people have built with each other, and that they really keep those kinds of relationships and help each other and all that. So it's an exciting journey. And so if any of you are thinking about what you want to do with your life and how you can be more effective at home and all, this is a program I would recommend for you. And Marge and I teach the course on the leadership point of view, and it's really we have share it. Our people are involved in about half of the courses, and then the University of San Diego folks are, and we have a great relationship. And now you're going to hear from one of our greatest promoters of this program, WD-40.
Thank you, Ken. If you want to turn these off, please.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I have a little bit of an admission this morning. We did talk about having Garry Ridge, the CEO of WD-40, here to talk with you this morning, and had every intention to do so. And I'll tell you, even at this moment, he still has intention to be here. Garry was taking care of some personal business. It wasn't a facelift or anything like that, was it? Oh, I know. I was trying to make a little bit of a humor out of that. Garry actually called me. He said, I am going to be there. And I said, Garry, you cannot be here. You're a doctor. I understand has told you you're not allowed to be here. Your family is asking us to tell you you're not allowed to be there. So here's what I've done, Gary. I've posted University of San Diego's rugby team at the gates, at the doors, and each one has a picture of you, and they have instructions to take you out if you show up. And being a good Aussie and a footballer, he knew exactly what we meant. But not to miss a beat, WD-40 has made an extraordinary commitment to this program. Garry also teaches in the program. But in addition to his own participation and teaching, he has sent 16 of his senior executives through the program today, one of which is Maria Mitchell. And Maria is going to join us and give you a little bit of a view about how this tool is applied at a company like WD-40. Maria?
So Kurt had asked me to maybe talk about, since Gary's not here, I tried my good aim mate, but it doesn't work really well, talk a little bit about how the company has applied the MSEL principles. But in order to really do that, I need to kind of tell you my personal story and how I came about. I'm from cohort 8. We've got a few members of cohort 8 around here. And I'm thinking about you and on the flip side, and I've been there. And Garry had talked to me about joining MSEL for a number of years. At the time that I joined MSEL, I had recently gotten divorced. And I have a very demanding job. I actually oversee investor relations, legal, community involvement. I work with the board and corporate secretary. So we wear a lot of hats at WD-40 company. And I had 2 kids, smaller. And I said, gosh, do I really want to invest 2 years of my life and give up some stuff that I'm doing with my kids, take away time from them, and spend all this time going through this program? Of course, I didn't know what the program was about, really. And as people talked to me more about it, Garry talked to me more about it, I said, gosh, that sounds really interesting. That sounds different, sounds special. And it sounds safe with cohort members, where we can get to know each other and talk and debate and learn along the way. So I said, okay, I'll try it. Along the way, I said, Garry, I don't know if I can do this. This is a lot of work. And he says, just stick with it. And that's what I wanted to share with you here now, because some of you may be thinking this is a big investment of your time. It absolutely is. Absolutely. But it is well worth it. Being now on the before picture and the after picture, it is well worth it for your life, because you grow from within. You become a better person overall. And we're a collection of experiences and backgrounds and all of the things that we do when we grow up, all of these things we bring to the MSEL program. And it seems to organize our thinking of what we want to do, what our hopes and dreams are about, and how can we really make a difference. Because we go through our lives thinking, we want to do something great, want to do something meaningful, but I don't really know what it is. We're really skillful in our technical skills. We know we have them. We're very unique. All of us bring some uniqueness to this world, but we don't know exactly how we're going to do that. And MSEL helped me understand that. Helped me understand how unique I am and what I can do for the world. But you know what? I thought, I can't change the whole world. But we can change the world around us one person at a time. We can influence people one person at a time. But it has to come from within us. And the piece that I love about MSEL is that, like Ken was saying, you're looking at yourself to become a leader, but you grow over time in terms of thinking, I really care about other people. What am I doing to affect that other person in the way I lead? And you don't realize that what you do every day at work may be impacting in a negative way, because you don't know yourself. So when you start knowing yourself, you say, oh, wait a minute, look what I did. Did I do that? Oh my gosh. And you start changing over time. And my real journey began after I graduated from MSEL, by the way. You get all of the learning, and you do apply it, and you put it to practical use during that time. But I think after you graduate, and you have all that information in your head, and you start getting organized, and you put it to practical use, and you start making a difference. Each time something comes up at work, oh, that's what that meant. Oh, okay, new significance, heightened awareness. And over time, you become this better leader, this better person. You become calmer within yourself. I like that expression of quiet presence in leadership. I like the fact that if you're a leader in your quietness, you can reflect upon others with your good behavior and your example, and you inspire others to action. It's incredible. And you reward it each time. And now the career, of course, is important. And a lot of people join MSEL because they want to get to the next step in their career. But over time, you realize it's not really about the career. I found something for my life to do. And it really makes me feel good. And my kids are proud of me right now because they see the difference. They saw it before. They see the after. And by the way, I follow my face every day. Every day. I'm not perfect, and no one at W40 is perfect. But you know, we're all trying, and we're better for it. So if you're considering the program, that's my little piece of value here that I got from it. I hope you drink the MSEL Kool-Aid too. But how does that work at WD-40? We have had 14, 16 people go through the program. And what it's done at different levels of leadership. And when it's done, it's permeated the organization. And all of these MSEL principles have come in different ways. Our performance evaluation process incorporates many of the principles of MSEL. Our values, they've been refreshed over the years. Many of those principles live within our values. Our Leadership Academy, we have an education session where our cohort members are part of the steering committee, and they bring the principles in to share with all tribe members. Because it's not just the leaders, it's trying to teach leadership skills to all tribe members. Because it's about self-leadership, it's about peer leadership, and the traditional leadership. So because at WD-40 we wear 12 hats, we've got to display those behaviors. All of us. A little bit of water here. So the benefit that the company has had over time is, we're faster at what we're doing. We're innovating more. So, for example, this year, for the first time in this company's history, we're launching brand extensions for the WD-40 brand. You've always known it as the can. The one lubricant can that you love, blue and yellow. And now we're actually putting brand extensions, and we're launching them in August. By the way, we've disclosed this in the earnings call, so from an investor relations standpoint. So how do we do that? Well, a lot of it has to do with those 14 people going out and bringing those principles in, organizing teams, high-performing teams. How do we deal with change management? Oh my God, every 2 minutes we've got a change in our company. Every 2 minutes. Oh, now we're doing this. Now we're doing this. All about under the same strategy. Thank you so much. Thank you, that's good. So in August, we're now introducing these products, and people are looking at us, wow, your brand extending. How are you getting it done? We made a decision in December. We did a lot of research. But these teams are coming together to launch this product in August. That means there's a lot more collaboration, a lot more creativity, a lot more ideas coming through the system. Well, what does that do to? Well, that's because employees are engaged. And Garry talks a lot about employee engagement. Ken spoke about it too. We have a 92% level of employee engagement. What does that mean? I had to find out, what does it mean? How do people become that way? Well, they want to know that their leaders work well together. They want to know that their leaders are aligned. They want to know how they fit within the corporate strategy. What do I do that makes this whole thing work? Am I important to this process? They want to know that they have clear direction. What do I do next? How do I do it? These are all principles of MSEL. And one of the remarkable things when I sit down sometimes with my peers as we evolve, because we're in a work in progress, by the way. We get into fights all the time here. We're sitting down and we're talking to our peers, and we're having these conversations, and we're changing as leaders. We're trying to see the other person's perspective and trying to see the good in our peers, that they have a job to do and that we have to contribute towards their ability to succeed. From a peer level, that's difficult. Because you know what? There are these people here, you all here are professional people. You have a lot to contribute. You've done your research, you've got your ideas, you know what's right, you've done it all. So you're going into a meeting, you say, you know what? I've done my work. We got to do this. Do we go into a meeting and say, wow, I'm going in with the intent to be influenced? Because my peers may have some really good ideas that will enrich the process. And that's what we're learning to do at WD-40. We go to the meeting, we have the discussion, and we listen. Bill, you have a really good idea. How can we incorporate that in here? But coming from the heart, not because it's a career thing or not because it's a political thing, but because you really feel that the people there, you've got to give them the dignity and the respect of what they've achieved. And by giving yourself that way, you get twice as much. Because if your concern is about enriching what that product is and not about yourself, you're going to get so much more back. You're going to get the results that you want. And you're going to be respected for having given. That's how I see it. So those are the benefits of what MSEL does. And I have to thank the founders, the vision that you had, because if I had to describe MSEL in one word, I would say it's transformational. And those of you who have the ability to see someone in the before picture and have them come back after MSEL and see who they are and how they evolve, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I think it just creates tears in Drea and Susan when they see things like this. Wow, I saw this person over here, and look at this. They've blossomed. And they really want to make a difference. It's not about the career. You know what? Our lives are very short. And we've got to find some meaning and purpose to it. And when we're in the 20s, career, money, all of this great stuff, oh, look at me, I'm really important. And that goes away after a while. So what do we do with our lives? And I think the MSEL program helps us decide what it is that we want to do. So I hope you all drink the Kool-Aid. And in my simple words, and thank you for having me, I really appreciate it.